Israel launches intense strikes on Beirut's southern suburbs for the third consecutive day. Israel attacks residential buildings in the suburbs of Damascus, killing 15 and injuring 16. And NATO Secretary General expresses his eagerness to work with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. You're now watching Qnews. We start with the latest in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Israel has launched intense strikes on Beirut's southern suburbs for the third consecutive day. Smoke billowed over the area and explosions echoed from Deir Qubail after a night of heavy bombardments. Raids also reached Bint Jbeil, where overnight airstrikes and artillery shelling inflicting significant damage on buildings and residential complexes. The Israeli occupation forces targeted several Hezbollah-controlled areas in the latest wave of attacks. Multiple Israeli airstrikes have targeted Hayy al-Rahibat in the southern city of Nabateeh, as well as Har al-Tahrik, Baalbek and several other areas in Lebanon. The occupation forces Arabic media spokesperson Avichai Adrai stated in a post on X that the 188th Brigade is conducting operations in new areas of southern Lebanon, focusing on Hezbollah military infrastructure. Adrai claimed that occupation troops recently discovered and destroyed a weapons depot containing launchers, sniper rifles and ammunition. The UN Security Council has condemned recent attacks on UN peacekeeping mission UNIFIL. The Council called on all parties to respect the safety of UNIFIL personnel and their facilities, emphasizing that peacekeepers must never be targeted. The Council specifically noted attacks on October the 29th, as well as November the 7th and the 8th. Israel has issued evacuation orders for residents in El Shayfat, El Amrusiya and El Ghberi in Beirut's southern suburbs. The occupation forces spokesperson for Arab media, Avichai Adrai, released two alerts urging residents of Har al-Tahrik and El Ghberi to evacuate. Earlier today, Adrai also issued a warning for residents in El Shayfat and El Amrusiya. Lebanon's caretaker health minister Firas al-Abyad has launched a crucial vaccination campaign at a shelter for displaced families in Beirut's Karatina district. The initiative aimed at preventing the spread of diseases such as polio and measles, focusing on protecting vulnerable children in the area. Al-Abyad administered polio drops to children, emphasizing the need for the ministry's health ongoing efforts to control potential epidemics. He stressed that all citizens, especially those in displaced communities, must be protected to avoid outbreaks that could further strain the country's healthcare system. Moving on to Syria, Syrian state news agency has reported that Israeli attacks on residential buildings in the suburbs of Damascus have killed 15 people and wounded 16. The targeted buildings were located in the Mazza and Qudasiya suburbs west of the capital. A video released by Syrian Sham FM radio showed smoke rising from the site following the strike. And in the Yemeni peace process developments, a Chinese envoy has called for a Yemeni-led political process at the UN Security Council, extended sanctions on Yemeni individuals and entities. On the same day, the Security Council adopted Resolution 2758, extending the sanctions for 12 months, and the mandate of the panel of experts assisting its Yemen Sanctions Committee for 13 months. During the Security Council meeting, China's deputy permanent representative to the UN emphasized the standstill in the peace process and the ongoing tensions in the Red Sea. He deemed the extension of sanctions necessary and appropriate.
中方呼吁各方支持格伦德伯格特使的工作，共同推进野人主导、野人所有的全面政治进程。
The U.S. Central Command CENTCOM has released a video showing a targeted airstrike on a Houthi facility in Yemen. In a post on X, CENTCOM confirmed a series of airstrikes on multiple Houthi weapons storage sites in areas under Houthi control. The action was in response to the group's attack on international commercial shipping, as well as U.S. coalition and merchant vessels in the Red Sea. International Atomic Energy Agency Chief Rafael Grossi has met with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. This comes a day after Grossi appealed to Iran's leadership to take steps to resolve long-standing issues with his agency over its nuclear program. The International Atomic Energy Agency head has for months sought progress with Iran on issues including a push for more monitoring cooperation at nuclear sites and an explanation of uranium traces found at undeclared sites. Four Palestinians have been killed and others have been injured in the Israeli occupation's shelling of the Sheikh Radwan neighborhood west of Gaza City. Palestinian media also reported that the occupation forces renewed their artillery shelling on El Zaytun neighborhood south of the city. Gaza health authorities have reported that the death toll from Israeli attacks since October the 7th has surpassed 43,700, with over 103,370 people injured. They added that within the last 24 hours, Israeli forces committed 3 massacres against families in the Gaza Strip, killing at least 24 Palestinians and injuring 11. Several Palestinians, including 2 children, have been injured as Israeli occupation forces continue their aggression on Gaza City and the northern Gaza Strip. Palestinian media reported that the occupation forces bombed a residential apartment on Al-Nafaq Street in Gaza, while an Israeli drone targeted a group of citizens in Jabalia. UNRWA Commissioner General Philip Lazzarini has warned that an entire generation of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip will be denied the right to education if the UN Relief and Works Agency, the UNRWA, collapses. Lazzarini emphasized that without a capable public administration or state, UNRWA is the only organization providing education to over 660,000 children in Gaza. He warned that the agency's collapse would sow the seeds of marginalization and extremism.
the occupying power, meaning that Israel will be responsible to provide this critical service.
Israel's parliament passed a law last month banning UNRWA, while the UN aid leader expressed readiness to collaborate with the incoming Trump administration.
We are in a new situation. Obviously, it's an understatement. In every new situation, we might see also new opportunities. To which extent is it realistic to talk about a two-state solution? For the time being, the two-state solution remains the international community and United Nations position about how to promote a solution on the Palestinian question in the region.
Israeli occupation forces have detained a young Palestinian and assaulted 4 other citizens in Barqa village, northwest of Nablus. Palestinian media reported that the occupation forces raided a house in the village and continued their assault for a second consecutive day, engaging in violent acts inside the village and against shop owners. The Independent Commission for Human Rights has issued an alert to the UN urging the organization to secure the immediate reopening of Gaza's border crossing to address the unfolding famine. The ICHR called on the UN and relevant international organizations to swiftly take action, pressuring Israeli occupation authorities to open the crossing and allow unhindered access to food across the Strip. The northern Gaza Strip, which has been under a tightened siege for over 40 days, has seen its entire population forcibly displaced. Human Rights Watch has stated in a report that Israel's repeated evacuation orders in Gaza amount to the war crime of forcible transfer and should constitute ethnic cleansing in parts of Palestinian territory. The report outlines evidence that Israeli officials are committing the war crime of forcible transfer, adding that Israel's actions appear to also meet the definition of ethnic cleansing in areas where Palestinians will not be allowed to return. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell has recommended suspending political dialogue with Israel, citing potential human rights violations in the ongoing war in Gaza. Borrell expressed serious concerns about possible breaches of international humanitarian law in Gaza, which he said Israel has yet to adequately address. In the letter sent to EU foreign ministers ahead of their upcoming meeting on Monday, Borrell emphasized the urgency of addressing these humanitarian concerns. The UN Human Rights Office recently reported that nearly 70% of the verified facilities in the conflicts were women and children, and condemned what it described as systematic violations of fundamental international humanitarian principles.
Act and the Europeans react. We have to take.
In solidarity with the Palestinian and Lebanese peoples, the 45th Cairo International Film Festival opened yesterday, with festival president and renowned actor Hussein Fahmy emphasized that the Palestinian cause remains Egypt's cause, symbolizing justice and dignity. Fahmy also reaffirmed Egypt's unwavering support for Lebanon, which has faced prolonged hardship. The ceremony began with a powerful Palestinian-themed performance, with traditional shawls covering the stage and the song Palestinian setting the tone for the event. Moving to the U.S., White House spokesperson Karen Jean-Pierre said U.S. President-elect Donald Trump and President Joe Biden have discussed Ukraine and the Middle East in a cordial meeting aimed at demonstrating a smooth transfer of power. The White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan added that Biden emphasized support for Ukraine as crucial to U.S. national security, arguing that a strong and stable Europe would help prevent the U.S. from being dragged into a war.
In many cases, not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it.
As President-elect Donald Trump prepares for a second and also national security.
As President-elect Donald Trump is set to return to the White House in 2025, attention is turning to the team he is assembling in his second term. Trump's cabinet selections include names like Marco Rubio and Matt Gaetz. As President-elect Donald Trump prepares for a second term, he's revealing key figures he wants to fill top positions in his administration. Following his victory over Vice President Kamala Harris, Trump has begun rolling out his picks, many of whom are staunch allies and prominent figures from his first term. The incoming administration will benefit from a Republican-controlled Senate, which could help push his selection through. Trump has also indicated a willingness to use recess appointments, raising speculation about some of his more controversial choices. Among the first picks announced are Marco Rubio for Secretary of State, a hardliner on foreign policy with a focus on China, Iran, and Russia. For Secretary of Homeland Security, Trump has selected South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, a key advocate for strong border security policies. Trump's Secretary of Defense nominee is Fox News host Pete Hegseth, a veteran with ties to conservative media. For the Attorney General role, Trump has tapped Representative Matt Gaetz, a loyal ally who will oversee the Justice Department despite ongoing investigations. In a move that signals a focus on immigration, Trump has also named Tom Homan as his border czar to oversee mass deportations. Additionally, Trump has selected Elise Stefanik to serve as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations and John Ratcliffe as Director of the CIA. For National Security Advisor, Representative Mike Waltz is expected to lead foreign policy and defense strategy. Trump's appointments are drawing significant attention as they set the tone for the second term.
Thank you.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte expressed eagerness to work with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump while inspecting troops during exercises in Latvia.
Thank you. I've worked with Donald Trump for 4 years in my previous role as Prime Minister of the Netherlands, and I had a very good working relationship with him. He will do everything needed to defend the United States, and he is well aware that the membership of NATO is part of the defense of the U.S. Look what is happening at the moment.
Let's go to Mona Al-Masilhi in our newsroom for more analysis on this matter. Over to you, Mona.
Thank you so much, Kareem. And for further analysis, we're joined from Kentucky by political science professor Dr. Ihsan Al-Khatib. Good evening to you, sir. Right. Let me here ask you, how do you assess the selections made by Donald Trump or the pickups for his new administration? And from your point of view, how would that impact the U.S. foreign policy at large? Hello. Dr. Hassan, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, definitely I would. Now, from your point of view, how do you assess the selections made by Donald Trump or his pickups for his new administration, and how would that impact or reflect on the U.S. foreign policy?
The choice of people to serve in the administration sends a signal about the direction of policy. It's often said that personnel is policy. So there's some concern now about the people that Trump has chosen, because they have taken some extreme positions. So, for example, Marco Rubio is a hawk on Iran, but I think not too much should be read into these selections, because by the end of the day, this is a government that's presidential system. It's Trump at the head of this government. He is the one with the vision. He's the one who will basically determine policy. And everybody, the ambassador, the secretaries, they will be carrying out his wishes. So regardless of the background of the people he appointed, and these selections, there's political reasons. He wants to appoint friends, people he trusts, and all that. So I wouldn't put too much weight on their views. The views that matter are the views that are held by Trump. And by the end, Trump is not as extreme as some of these people.
So from your point of view, would Trump's administration policies help in achieving a ceasefire in Lebanon and Gaza?
Yes, definitely. The man said he campaigned and he went to Michigan and he told people that He wants a ceasefire. He wants the war to end. He wants peace. He doesn't believe in war. And this has taken too long, and he wants to end it. And I believe that he does believe that he's sincere about it, and he will do something about it.
How about his stance on Israel's decision to expand the military ground operation in southern Lebanon?
At this point in time, this country has one president at a time, and the president-elect supposedly he's supposed to stay out of politics and not make statements and not seem like this country has two voices at the same time. That should not be the case at all. I'm doubtful that he made any statements as to what's going on now. He's supposed to be very careful about what he says. But at the end of the day, I mean, Biden is the president until January 20, when the transition of power, when Trump will be the president. Until then, Biden is in charge. So really, what Trump wants is really not important. The key is that Biden has given the Israelis everything. Netanyahu is leading this, and Netanyahu is doing whatever he wants. Biden has been very weak, and when Trump is in office, I think it's not going to be the same. I don't think he will let Netanyahu ignore him and just give Netanyahu unlimited support without expecting anything in return.
But would he accept Israel's decision to expand the military ground operations in Lebanon or annex the West Bank?
Two things. One, he said he wants to end the war. So expanding the war and ending the war, they're in conflict. So we'll see what Trump is going to do. He promised to end it. So expanding it when he's president is going to be in conflict with what he promised. That's number one. Number two, the idea of what Israel is doing in Gaza and the West Bank, there is a two-state solution. He said he wants to end the war, and he wants the Abrahamic Accord, and he wants Saudi Arabia to have normal relations with Israel. And Saudi Arabia has made it clear it will not normalize with Israel until there is a ceasefire and a two-state solution. So the vision of Trump is going to be in conflict with the vision of Netanyahu, because Netanyahu and the right-wing government in Israel, they say they want war, they want to fight for years, and they don't want to give the Palestinians anything. So let's see what Trump is going to do. He will have no choice but to pressure Israel. We know that. I mean, Trump is a supporter for Israel. Biden is a supporter of Israel. The Republicans support Israel. The Democrats support Israel. But it's another issue when you have a genocide going on.
Yes.
It's one thing to support Israel. It's another thing to support the genocide. It's one thing to support Israel. It's another thing to support it fighting for years with no end in sight. And that's the key difference between Trump and Biden, is that Trump has a vision, but Biden doesn't.
Your point is clear here, Dr. Ihsan Al-Khatib, political science professor. We thank you so much for being with us, and definitely remains to be seen. And now back to you, Karim.
Thank you very much. That was Mona Al-Masalhi at our newsroom with more analysis. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here's what we have been covering. Israel launches intense strikes on Beirut's southern suburbs for the third consecutive day. Israel attacks residential buildings in the suburbs of Damascus, killing 15 and injuring 16. NATO Secretary General expresses his eagerness to work with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at Q News EGY to stay informed. Thank you for watching and good night.